Captain Mark Ellis was overseeing a routine urban training exercise when the sky turned hostile. Without warning, the atmosphere buzzed with the alien ships of the Aeronox Empire as they descended over the cityscape, their intent clear and destructive. "Get down!" Mark shouted to his unit just as the first blasts hit. Buildings around them crumbled, sending clouds of debris into the air. The ground shook with each subsequent strike, a terrifying testament to the invaders' firepower. "What the hell are those things?" screamed Lieutenant Harris, his voice barely audible over the chaos. "Aeronox Empire! We need to regroup and find cover!" Mark barked back, leading his team through the disintegrating streets towards an underground bunker they used for drills. As they maneuvered through the wreckage, the air filled with the eerie hum of the Aeronox technology, unlike any aircraft Earth had. The city was being torn apart, block by block. Civilians ran screaming, dodging falling debris and seeking refuge. Once inside the bunker, Mark slammed the steel doors shut. The dimly lit room buzzed with the anxious energy of his unit, all trying to make sense of the attack. "Status report," Mark demanded, scanning the room for his communications officer. "Sir, it's a full-scale invasion. They've hit major urban centers worldwide," reported Corporal Jenkins, her face lit by the glow of the emergency console. Mark's mind raced. The Aeronox Empire was known through galactic whispers, rumored to have conquered multiple star systems with ruthless efficiency. Earth was seemingly their next target. "We need to contact command, assess our options," Mark stated, his voice a calm force amid the turmoil. "Communications are jammed, sir. They're using some kind of EMP barrier. We're blind here," Jenkins replied, frustration evident in her tone. "Then we'll do what we can. We need to organize a resistance," Mark said, turning to address his unit. "Listen up. We're all that's left between these invaders and our families. We hold the line no matter what. Harris, organize a recon team. We need eyes on their positions. Jenkins, keep trying to break through the jamming. The rest of you, fortify this bunker. We are not giving this city up without a fight." The soldiers, fueled by a surge of adrenaline and Mark's leadership, sprang into action. Each task was carried out with precision, a desperate effort to claw back some control in the face of overwhelming odds. Outside, the sounds of destruction continued, a haunting reminder of the battle ahead. Mark watched from a periscope, his jaw set. The Aeronox were methodical, but he knew something they didn't. Humans excel under pressure. And when humans fought back, it would be with cunning and fierce determination. "Captain, what's the plan?" Harris asked, joining Mark at the periscope. "We fight, Lieutenant. We fight smart, and we hit them where it hurts. They may have superior firepower, but they've never faced an enemy like us," Mark replied, a steely resolve in his eyes. As the first chapter of their resistance began, Mark knew this was but the opening salvo in what would be a brutal fight to reclaim their planet. But he believed in his team, and he believed in humanity's indomitable spirit to overcome. Deep within the underground military base, Captain Mark Ellis paced before a gathering of survivors. The bunker's austere walls echoed with the murmurs of soldiers and civilians alike, all reeling from the relentless Aeronox assault on Earth's major cities. "We've taken a hit, a hard hit," Mark began, his voice cutting through the low din, commanding the room's attention. "But this is not the time to falter. This is the time to gather our strength and prepare to strike back." Among the crowd was Major Sandra Lee, a seasoned pilot whose expertise would be crucial. She stepped forward, her expression determined. "Sir, what's the status of our aerial capabilities? Can we get any birds up to challenge their ships?" Mark nodded to Lieutenant Harris, who was coordinating their available resources. "Harris, report." "Major, most of our airfields were targeted first, but we've got a handful of drones and 2 jets that were out on training runs during the attack. They're intact and at your disposal," Harris informed, handing over a tablet with the coordinates and status of each asset. "That'll have to do for now," Mark said. "Major Lee, I want you and your team to make ready those jets. We'll need every advantage we can muster." Turning his focus to the rest of the assembly, Mark's gaze was steely. "The Aeronox think they can swoop in and crush us with their advanced technology. They believe we're just another notch in their belt of cosmic conquests. They're wrong." He paused, allowing his words to sink in, then continued. "We have something they don't: ingenuity and the will to protect our home. Each of you has trained for a moment like this. We're going to use every strategy, every tactic at our disposal to defend Earth." Corporal Jenkins, still working diligently at a makeshift communication station, looked up. "Sir, I've managed to partially bypass their jamming. I'm getting through to other bases around the globe. We're not alone in this fight." Excellent work, Jenkins, Mark commended, then addressed the group. This is our signal to coordinate a global counterstrike. We'll share intel, resources, anything that gives us an edge. A young engineer, Specialist Gomez, raised his hand, holding a device. Captain, we've been developing experimental EMP tech that might disrupt their systems. It's not battle-tested, but it could give us the opening we need. Mark's eyes lit up with a spark of hope. Gomez, I want your team on it. Enhance that tech. Make it battle-ready. We need every tool in our arsenal operational. The meeting adjourned, with tasks delegated and spirits ignited. As the group dispersed to their respective duties, Mark pulled Major Lee aside. Sandra, keep your team sharp and ready to move on my command. We strike fast and hard. Understood, sir, Major Lee replied, her tone as resolute as Mark's. Mark returned to the central command table, laying out maps and digital displays. Each piece of information added to a growing strategy that he hoped would turn the tide of the invasion. As he worked into the night, Mark knew the coming days would test their resolve and creativity. But with Earth's last defenders rallied at his side, he believed deeply in their ability to reclaim their world. When humans fought back, it wouldn't just be a battle. It would be the beginning of their victory. In the cramped, bustling research and development wing of the underground military base, Captain Mark Ellis watched intently as Specialist Gomez and his team worked feverishly on the EMP technology. The room was filled with the hum of machinery and the sharp scent of soldering iron. Status update, Gomez? Mark asked, his voice echoing slightly in the high-ceilinged room. We've made significant progress, sir, Gomez replied without looking up from his workbench. We've modified the EMPs to harness Earth's natural electromagnetic field. It amplifies the pulse and should give us a few seconds of complete shutdown in their tech if we get the range right. Mark nodded, impressed. Good. And the deployment method? Gomez gestured to a table where several compact devices lay arrayed. Portable for ground troops and adaptable for aerial deployment. We're doing final tests now, but they'll be ready for field use very soon. Mark's strategic mind buzzed with possibilities. Excellent. Keep me posted on the testing. I want a demo as soon as you're ready. As Mark left the lab, he bumped into Dr. Emily Chen, the head scientist overseeing the alien technology analysis. She carried a tablet filled with complex diagrams and data analyses. Dr. Chen, any insights from the tech we've captured? Mark inquired, glancing at her screen. Yes, Captain. It seems the Aeronauts have a vulnerability we hadn't anticipated. Their systems are highly sensitive to fluctuations in electromagnetic fields. Our EMP could do more than just shut them down. It might also corrupt their data integrity if timed correctly. Mark's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. That's perfect. Can we exploit this in the field? We can, and we must, Dr. Chen affirmed. I'll coordinate with Gomez's team to ensure the EMPs are tuned precisely. We have a real chance to blind them and throw them into disarray. Mark's next stop was the strategy room, where Lieutenant Harris and Major Lee were mapping out potential targets for their first coordinated strike using the new EMP weapons. Mark, we've identified several Aeronauts command hubs. They're well defended, but with the new EMPs we see an opening, Harris explained, pointing to a digital map lit up with various points of interest. Major Lee added, Our jets are equipped and ready. Once we deploy the EMPs, it'll knock out their defenses long enough for our strike teams to move in. Mark, feeling a surge of strategic optimism, clapped his hands together. This is what we need. A series of quick, hard strikes to disrupt their operations and give Earth a fighting chance. He turned to address the gathered officers and strategists. We're not just defending our planet. We're taking the fight to them with human ingenuity and courage. Prepare your teams. We move out within the hour. As the room buzzed into action, Mark felt a profound sense of purpose. This battle was not just about survival. It was about demonstrating the indomitable spirit of humanity. When humans fought back, they did so with a cunning and bravery that no conqueror could anticipate. The ruins of a once bustling urban center now served as the backdrop for Captain Mark Ellis's guerrilla warfare tactics. Hidden among the debris, Mark and his select team of soldiers adjusted their positions as they prepared for another swift strike against the Aeronauts invaders. Remember, hit fast, hit hard, then vanish before they can regroup, Mark instructed, his voice low and steady. He handed out the last of the portable EMP devices to his team. These will give us the edge we need. Use them wisely. As twilight descended, the eerie glow of the Aeronauts ships patrolled overhead. The team waited in silence, the tension palpable. Mark gave the signal, and they sprung from their cover, moving quickly and quietly towards their target. an Aeronax ground control station. Sergeant Diaz, the team's explosives expert, led the way to the perimeter of the station. She placed the EMP device strategically at the base of the communication tower. EMP in place, Captain. Detonating in 3, 2, 1. The device emitted a sharp electric pulse, and the surrounding Aeronax technology flickered and went dark. The alien soldiers, momentarily confused, scrambled to restore their systems. "Now!" Mark shouted. His team surged forward, using the brief window of disruption to their advantage. They launched a barrage of fire against the disoriented Aeronax troops, who struggled to fight back without their usual technological support. Within minutes, the skirmish was over. Mark's team had disabled a key communication node, sowing confusion among the Aeronax ranks. "Move out, double time," he ordered, and they quickly retreated into the shadows of the ruined city, leaving no trace of their presence. As they regrouped in a new location, Lieutenant Harris reported in via a secure line. "Captain, the strike was a success. Aeronax communications in this sector are down. It's causing a chain reaction of delays and miscommunications." "Excellent work, everyone." Mark praised his team, checking their equipment as they prepared for the next move. "These guerrilla tactics are just the beginning. We'll keep hitting them, keep them off balance until we're ready for a larger offensive." Corporal Jenkins, monitoring enemy signals, chimed in. "Captain, I'm picking up increased Aeronax activity to the north. It looks like they're trying to fortify their positions." Mark considered this new information. "They're getting nervous, tightening their defenses. We're making an impact. Let's use this to our advantage." He mapped out their next series of strikes, targeting newly identified weak points in the Aeronax defenses. "We'll continue these hit-and-run tactics. Every point we hit reduces their hold on our city and brings us one step closer to reclaiming our home." As night deepened, Mark and his team moved through the shadows, a ghostly presence in the city they once knew. With each successful operation, they reclaimed a piece of their world, embodying the fierce spirit and tactical acumen that defined humanity's resistance. The war was far from over, but each victory added to their resolve to fight until Earth was free. The reclaimed alien forward operating base buzzed with activity as Captain Mark Ellis and his team fortified their new position. The walls, once lined with the sleek, cold technology of the Aeronax, now bore the marks of human ingenuity and adaptation. "Captain, we've successfully integrated Aeronax tech with our systems. We should have a significant advantage in the next engagement," reported Specialist Gomez, pointing to the newly installed hybrid defense system. Mark nodded, assessing the updates. "Good work, Gomez. Keep pushing the boundaries. Every piece of tech we adapt is another step towards victory." Lieutenant Harris approached with a tablet in hand, her expression serious. "Sir, we've located a major Aeronax supply line using the intel from the last raid. If we strike there, we could cut off their supply to this sector." Mark considered the plan, his strategic mind plotting each potential outcome. "Prepare your team, Harris. We strike at dawn. This is our chance to cripple their operations and boost our momentum." As dawn broke, Mark led his team through the dim, early light towards the Aeronax supply route. Hidden by the low hills, they watched as alien transports moved along the designated path. "Now," Mark whispered, and Diaz activated an EMP device. The pulse surged through the area, and the Aeronax transports halted, their systems knocked offline. The team wasted no time. They descended upon the disabled convoy, swiftly overtaking the alien forces who were ill-prepared for a fight without their technological aids. Within minutes, the supply line was under human control. "We've got food, munitions, and more of their tech to reverse engineer," Harris reported, a triumphant grin on her face as she surveyed the captured goods. Back at the base, Mark addressed his gathered troops, the captured supplies stacked behind him. "Today we turned the tide. This victory is not just about the supplies we've seized. It's about proving to the Aeronax and to ourselves that we are not just survivors. We are warriors, reclaimers of our home." Cheers filled the room, the morale boost palpable. Mark's leadership had transformed a ragtag group of survivors into a formidable resistance force, one that was increasingly gaining the upper hand. "Now we build on this," Mark continued. "We keep hitting them, keep using their own technology against them. We adapt, we overcome. We fight not just to survive, but to win." As the celebration died down, Mark and his commanders planned their next moves. The captured supplies opened new opportunities for sabotage and further raids. With each operation, they would erode the Aeronax presence, reclaiming more of their planet with each victory. The days that followed saw a series of successful strikes, each orchestrated to exploit Aeronax weaknesses discovered through their own technology. The human resistance grew bolder, their actions more daring. Mark knew the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, but he also knew his fighters were ready. They had turned fear into fire, and with each victory, they stoked the flames of a freedom fight that would not cease until Earth was entirely their own again. Back at the reclaimed forward operating base, Captain Mark Ellis convened with his top strategists and technical experts in a hastily organized war room. The walls were plastered with digital maps and intercepted Aeronox communications, displaying their current holdings and weaknesses. "Listen up," Mark began, his voice firm and authoritative as he addressed the room. "Our guerrilla tactics have been effective, but it's time to think bigger. We need a decisive strike that will cripple their command structure and give us control of the skies." Specialist Gomez stepped forward, holding a tablet that displayed a schematic of an enormous Aeronox command ship currently in orbit. "Based on the tech we've captured, I believe we can hack into their ship's control systems. It's risky, but with precise execution, we can turn their flagship into our asset." Lieutenant Harris, who had been coordinating ground assaults, looked up, intrigued. "A space-based operation? That's ambitious, Captain. How do you propose we pull this off?" Mark outlined the plan, pointing to various locations on the map. "We'll need a two-pronged approach. Team 1, led by Major Lee, will use captured Aeronox fighters to breach the ship's defenses. Once inside, they'll secure the control room and begin the hacking operation. Meanwhile," he continued, "Team 2 will launch synchronized attacks on their ground forces to prevent them from assisting their flagship. This will keep them too busy to respond effectively in space." Major Sandra Lee, an experienced pilot and tactician, nodded her understanding. "I'll lead the assault team personally. We've trained for zero-G combat, and with the Aeronox tech integrated into our suits, we'll have the edge we need." Dr. Emily Chen, who had been instrumental in reverse engineering alien technology, added, "I've prepared a virus that should disrupt their systems long enough for us to gain control. Once we're in, we can use their communications array to send a false retreat order to their ground troops." Mark looked around the room, meeting the eyes of his team. "This is it, the operation that could turn the tide of this war. It's going to be tough, but I know we have the right people for the job. Are there any questions?" The room was silent, the weight of the plan settling on each member's shoulders. Finally, Sergeant Diaz spoke up, her voice steady and confident. "No questions, sir. Just give us the word, and we'll get it done." Mark gave a slight nod, proud of the resolve he saw in his team. "All right, let's prepare and move out at 0600. Check and double-check your gear, and remember, what we're doing today will save lives and could very well save our planet." As the meeting disbanded, the teams went to their respective quarters to suit up and review their roles. Mark took a moment to look out over the base, now bustling with activity. His heart was heavy with the knowledge of the danger they all faced, but he was buoyed by the courage and determination of his people. When humans fought back, it was with a fierce determination to reclaim their world, and today, they were taking their biggest step yet toward that goal. The sky was dark with the bulk of the Aeronox command ship looming large as the assault team, led by Major Sandra Lee, piloted the stolen Aeronox fighters through the black void. Captain Mark Ellis monitored the operation from the ground, his eyes glued to the screens showing live feeds from the team's helmet cams. "Major Lee, report," Mark demanded, his voice tense with anticipation. "We're approaching the target. The EMP worked perfectly. Their external sensors are blind. Preparing for breach," Sandra's voice crackled over the radio. On Earth, the second team launched their coordinated attacks on Aeronox ground forces. Explosions lit up the night as the EMP devices deployed, sowing chaos and confusion. Lieutenant Harris directed the operations, ensuring that the alien forces were too engaged to assist their flagship. Back in orbit, Sandra and her team docked their fighters in the belly of the Aeronox ship. They breached the hull with precision charges, making their way towards the control room. The ship's internal defenses were offline thanks to the virus Dr. Chen had developed, but they still faced resistance from Aeronox soldiers. "We're at the control room, engaging the enemy," Sandra reported, the sound of gunfire and shouts filling the comms. Mark watched, his fist clenched, as the team fought their way into the heart of the ship. Finally, the gunfire ceased, and Sandra's voice came through, breathless but triumphant. "Control room secured. Initiating hacking protocol now." On the ground, Mark relayed the order to intensify their assaults, keeping the pressure on the Aeronox. Every soldier knew their role was crucial to the operation's success. Minutes ticked by agonizingly as Dr. Chen's virus worked its way through the ship's systems. Then, a cheer erupted from the comms. We've got control of the ship. Sending the false retreat signal now, Sandra exclaimed. Simultaneously, across the planet, Aeronox troops began to withdraw, their commands overridden by the signal from their own flagship. Mark watched as the alien forces retreated, confusion and disorder in their ranks. Commander Ellis, the operation is a success. The flagship is under our control, and the Aeronox forces are in retreat, Sandra confirmed, her voice filled with relief and victory. Mark let out a deep breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Outstanding work, Major. Prepare to bring the ship into our orbit. We'll need to secure it and gather all the intelligence we can. As the final battles wound down on Earth, humanity had not only defended their planet, but had turned the aliens' might against them. Mark stood among his troops, his heart swelling with pride. We did it, he addressed his team. We fought back, and it was over in minutes. Let's get to work securing our future. The victory was celebrated across the globe, but for Mark and his team, it was just the beginning. They now held the keys to advanced technology and a powerful symbol of their resilience. Earth was safe for now, and as they looked to the stars, they knew they were no longer just survivors but a force to be reckoned with in the galaxy. The dawn was breaking, casting a gentle glow over the Earth that had withstood the onslaught of an alien empire. In the newly established headquarters of Earth's global defense, Captain Mark Ellis stood before the world's leaders and the united military personnel, ready to address them. Ladies and gentlemen, we stand here today not just as survivors, but as victors, Mark began, his voice resonating through the assembly. The Aeronox sought to conquer us, but what they found was a united Earth, ready to defend its sovereignty and secure its future. Around him, the room filled with nods and murmurs of agreement. The atmosphere was charged with a renewed sense of purpose and hope. Thanks to the bravery of Major Lee and her team, we now control the Aeronox command ship, Mark continued, gesturing to a large screen displaying the imposing vessel now orbiting Earth. This ship is not just a trophy of our victory. It's a repository of advanced technology and knowledge that we can use to safeguard our planet and help ensure that no threat, alien or otherwise, can ever endanger our world again. Applause broke out, echoing off the walls of the command center. Mark waited for it to subside before adding, "But our work does not end here. We must remain vigilant. We will analyze the technology we've captured, strengthen our defenses, and build alliances. We will share what we learn and stand with other civilizations who may seek our help against oppression." In the crowd, Major Sandra Lee stood alongside other key military figures, their faces marked with the fatigue of battle but brightened by their achievements. They exchanged looks of mutual respect and understanding, warriors who had turned the tide together. "We've been given a second chance," Mark said, his eyes sweeping over his audience. "A chance to rebuild better, stronger, and more united than ever before. Let this be a new dawn for humanity, a beginning where Earth is not just a participant in galactic affairs, but a leader, a beacon of freedom, and a defender of justice." As the assembly stood, joining in a standing ovation, Mark felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He was ready to lead, to take the lessons learned from this war and use them to protect and elevate his home planet. In the days and weeks that followed, Earth began to transform. The Aeronox technology was integrated into Earth's infrastructure, enhancing everything from energy production to medical research. Diplomatic channels opened with other interstellar civilizations, establishing Earth as a pivotal member of a growing intergalactic community. And at the heart of it all was Mark Ellis, once a captain in a beleaguered military, now a key figure in shaping a world that looked to the stars not with fear, but with courage and curiosity. As the sun rose higher, casting its light on a planet united by its defiance and hope, Mark knew that while the battle was over, the journey for Earth was just beginning. Under his leadership, Earth would not just survive, it would thrive.